Here are your The Young and the Restless spoilers for May 27, 2025. When Victor and Adam retaliate against Billy, Lily demands answers from Amanda, and Lauren worries about Michael's decision-making. Victor Newman can be ruthless, and he rarely, if ever, changes his mind. On Tuesday's show, watch for Victor and Adam to retaliate against Billy. There is so much bad blood between the Newmans and the Abbotts that this is likely to get truly messy. Chelsea has implored Adam not to get in the mud with Victor's revenge schemes. But can Adam say no to his father once he's made up his mind to go after someone? Amanda Sinclair is used to doing the cross-examining in Geno City. However, it's Lily's turn to do the questioning this time. On Tuesday's show, watch for Lily to demand answers from Amanda. The legal eagle gave Lily, Devon, and Nate much to digest when she revealed she was working for the enigmatic Aristotle Dumas. Amanda tried to alleviate the concerns the trio had about Dumas. However, Lily likely has more questions for Amanda. But will Amanda come forward with responses, or will her loyalty to her employer keep her from giving Lily the answers she wants? Michael Baldwin may have quit Victor's employ, but that doesn't mean that Michael's wife Lauren is going to stop worrying about him. For starters, this was an incredibly painful decision for Michael to make. He wasn't just Victor's attorney, he was his friend. Michael even looked upon Victor as a father figure. Lauren has not only Michael's emotional state to worry about, but also his professional standing. On Tuesday, watch for Lauren to worry about Michael's decision-making. Might he be thinking of going back to Victor and begging for his forgiveness? It took a lot for Michael to work up the courage to leave Victor. If he goes back to his ex-boss, he might never find the strength to leave him again. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest that once Phyllis Summers gets something into her head, it's hard to rationalize with her. During the Monday, May 26 episode, she revealed to friend Amanda Sinclair that she has aspirations to run chancellor, and she's hoping that the rumor of Aristotle Dumas's proposed hostile takeover is true. Phyllis explained to Amanda that this was why she was so desperate for a meeting with the mysterious mogul, to see if he plans on snagging Nikki Newman's company out from under her, and if she can convince him to agree to give her the top spot at the company. This would kill two birds with one stone. One-upping Billy Abbott for firing her from Abbott Communications, and getting one over Victor Newman, as there's no love lost between the two. Phyllis explained why she's pulled some unethical moves to secure a Dumas meeting. After all, she did steal Billy's phone to get the man's number to call and text him, and she also spied on Amanda during Monday's show to get the dirt. These are two instances where Phyllis crossed the line. But could she dive even deeper and do something that could jeopardize her friendship with Amanda? During the May 26 episode, Phyllis suggested that Amanda simply text her the place and location she's at the next time she meets up with her billionaire boss, and Phyllis would just show up unexpectedly. Of course, Amanda shot this idea down. She loves her job, and there's no way she's going to risk it by playing into one of Phyllis's harebrained schemes. So will Phyllis simply take matters into her own hands? Lie and R spoilers remind fans that Phyllis is a tech wizard. So could she hack into Amanda's email to look at her calendar? Could she steal her friend's phone the same way she stole Billy's to get information on Dumas? Fans are waiting on pins and needles for Dumas' big reveal. So could Phyllis finding information on his whereabouts also prove to be Dumas's debut on the canvas? Sure, Phyllis wants something from Dumas, but there's also a part of her that would love to get bragging rights to being the first person in GC to sneak a peek at Dumas. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Phyllis is the type of woman who can be relentless with these kinds of things. On the Monday, May 26th episode of The Young and the Restless, Phyllis reveals her plans to Amanda. Holden pushes Claire's buttons, and Billy assuages Sally's fears about Phyllis. At the athletic club, Claire rambled to Kyle about how Nikki had put a cocky male colleague in his place. Kyle informed her that he had a meeting with Audra in the jazz lounge, and Claire complained about Audra interrupting their dinner plans. Kyle anticipated that it wouldn't take long for Audra to brag about what she was up to. Kyle planned to take the information and use it against Audra, since it was how the corporate game was played. Claire suggested she tag along to play referee, but Kyle imagined Audra would be more candid if it was just the two of them. Kyle expected the meeting would allow Claire just enough time to enjoy a Vesper before dinner, and he kissed her cheek before heading off. She sighed. In the jazz lounge, Holden observed that Audra was drinking alone and thought she could use some company. She coldly informed him that she was waiting for Kyle, but it wasn't what Holden thought. Holden pondered why the heads of competing companies would meet, and he wanted to stay looking out for her the way he had in LA. Audra groaned that what they'd shared in LA was over, but he wasn't making it easy for her to forget about it. Holden admitted that he wasn't trying to make it easy. Kyle approached Audra and Holden and observed that he kept finding them together. Audra chalked it up to both of them living at the club. Holden stepped away, and Kyle noted that it looked like Holden wasn't ready to give up on what Audra had called a business history. Audra ordered Kyle not to read into something that wasn't there. Kyle turned the topic to Audra's text message, and he voiced surprise to get a proposition from a rival who'd already warned that she'd blow him out of the water. Audra cited the buzz around Vibrant hitting the market, and she wanted to control the narrative by turning her rivalry with Kyle into a publicity gimmick. She suggested that they play up the competition between their companies in the media, enticing people to check out both product brands to decide for themselves which one they liked best. Audra envisioned openly arguing and convincing influencers to compare their products to blow up social media. Kyle admitted he was intrigued, but he pointed out that the idea stood to benefit a startup like Vibrant more than an established empire like Jabot. Audra countered that there was nothing new or exciting about Jabot anymore, but the campaign would hit the refresh button and broaden its consumer base. Kyle considered it a clever pitch that only stood to help Audra grab Jabot's customers. Audra compared her idea to the classic film Miracle on 34th Street, in which Kris Kringle sent Macy's customers to competitor stores, only for Macy's to end up more packed than ever. Audra reminded Kyle that Jabot's sunscreen had gone viral after he'd exposed himself to the world, and she pictured them leaking internal memos or private text messages on social media while working together to coordinate their responses. Kyle agreed to think about the idea, but he cautioned her against popping the champagne just yet. She purred that she'd put the bottle on ice. Holden joined Claire at the athletic club bar, and they ordered Vespers for one another. He questioned why she was drinking alone when he'd just seen Kyle downstairs with Audra. Holden voiced surprise that Kyle had agreed to discuss business with a direct competitor. Claire contended that she and Kyle kept their personal and professional lives separate. Holden asked if Kyle and Audra had ever had a relationship that wasn't professional. Claire wondered why Holden was so curious when Kyle and Audra clearly weren't together then, unless Holden was suggesting otherwise. Holden pointed out that Kyle and Audra obviously knew one another well, but he hadn't meant to upset Claire. Claire assured him he hadn't, but she questioned whether he'd jealous. Holden claimed that he was just a curious guy, and he told her to forget he'd asked. Holden referred to what Claire had told him about her history, and he inquired whether Victor was as intimidating as people said. Claire remained silent, and Holden worried that he'd said something wrong. Claire stated that Victor was a loving, generous man who would do anything to protect his family. Holden mentioned that he'd heard Victor could be ruthless with his enemies, and Jack was at the top of that list. Holden imagined Victor wasn't happy that Claire was dating an Abbott. Kyle returned and asked if everything was okay. Claire claimed that Holden had just been keeping her company during Kyle's meeting, and she'd owed Holden one for introducing her to Vespers. Kyle figured the two could call it even. Audra appeared and sweetly apologized for stealing Kyle, but Claire flatly replied that Audra hadn't stolen anyone. Audra thanked Kyle for listening and looked forward to hearing from him. Audra sauntered off, and Holden chased after her. Holden demanded to know if she was trying to work with Kyle or if she was secretly setting him up to fail. Meanwhile, Kyle shared that Audra had pitched an outrageous idea about playing up their rivalry in the media to benefit from the publicity. Claire remarked that it wasn't a bad idea, but Kyle cited a flaw in that Audra didn't want Jabot to succeed. Claire suspected that Audra's plan had nothing to do with Jabot, but something to do with Kyle. Sally and Billy jogged through the park, and she called it a welcome distraction from Phyllis. Billy offered to touch grass again to convince Sally he wasn't reconsidering firing Phyllis. Sally conceded that she believed Billy wouldn't pull Phyllis back into Abbott Communications, but she was still concerned about Phyllis' threat that they'd be sorry for what they'd done to her. Billy crowed that Phyllis had no power over them, but Sally worried that Phyllis was capable of anything. Billy figured that Phyllis had just been lashing out because she'd been angry and hurt, and he doubted it was a concern because she was focused on helping her son. Sally feared Phyllis' mama bear instinct would only make things worse. Sally marveled that things were going well in her life, and she didn't want to deal with Phyllis' drama. She opted to focus on the good, and she vowed to fight back against the unpredictable mess of Phyllis. At Crimson Lights, Amanda told Dumas over the phone that Lily and Devin were confused by what she told them about Dumas wanting to protect their company. Phyllis listened as Amanda recounted that the Winters siblings had demanded a face-to-face meeting with Dumas. Amanda promised to handle it, and she noticed Phyllis watching her as she hung up. Phyllis remarked that she wasn't the only one trying to get an audience with Dumas. Amanda scolded Phyllis for eavesdropping. Phyllis considered it destiny that they'd crossed paths so they could help one another. Phyllis again appealed to Amanda to help her get a meeting with Dumas, and she envisioned that Dumas would give Amanda a raise for brokering a profitable partnership. Amanda maintained that he wouldn't change his mind. Phyllis suggested that Amanda give her a heads up the next time Dumas had a dinner reservation, so Phyllis could jump on a plane and show up at the same place and time. Amanda balked at risking her lucrative job for Phyllis. Phyllis wondered why Dumas was obsessed with hiding in the shadows, and Amanda queried why Phyllis was fixated on Dumas. Phyllis declared that everything she was doing was for her son. Phyllis contended that Daniel needed something to throw himself into to find peace and passion in his work again. Amanda sympathized with Phyllis and her family, but she sensed there was more to why it mattered to Phyllis that Dumas be her backer. Phyllis admitted that she had an agenda, and it would blow Amanda's mind. Phyllis revealed that she was interested in Dumas' interest in Chancellor, and she expressed her support if he was planning a corporate takeover because Victor and Nikki deserved to fail. Amanda realized Phyllis was hoping to convince Dumas to put her in charge if he pulled off a Chancellor takeover. Phyllis considered it achievable with Amanda's help. Amanda admitted it was an inspired plan, but she insisted that Phyllis let it go. Phyllis proposed that she and Amanda run Chancellor together. Phyllis predicted she and Amanda would be dynamite together, but Amanda warned about what happened to dynamite when it was lit. Amanda swore she was happy with the stability she had, but Phyllis offered to make Amanda a top executive if Amanda helped her get a leadership position. Phyllis imagined the two of them rocking the business world together, and she pledged to make it work. Billy and Sally overheard as they walked by, and he asked what Phyllis meant. Phyllis barked that it was none of Billy's business. Billy swore that he'd been asking as a friend, but Phyllis groused that his wellness checks were insulting and patronizing. Phyllis warned that Billy and Sally would find out soon enough that what they'd done to her had been a huge mistake, since she was about to bounce back. Sally reasoned that Billy letting Phyllis go had been the best thing for Phyllis. Phyllis spat that the only thing Sally had earned was an extravagant gift from her latest conquest, and it was what a roll in hay with Billy was going for those days. Sally retorted that she felt sorry for Phyllis, who had a lot of steam to blow off after being single for such a long time. Billy chimed in that Sally had already proven her worth at the company, and he turned the topic to Phyllis' new venture. Sally assumed it was a pathetic fantasy. Phyllis promised that what she had planned would blow everyone out of the water, and she stalked out. Billy asked Amanda if something was really going on, or if it was just Phyllis being Phyllis. "I guess we'll have to wait and see, won't we?" Amanda vaguely replied. Michael approaches Lauren from behind at Society, embraces her and purrs that he's so happy she said yes. She laughs. "Which time?" Michael replies, "All of them." He sits and shares that he won in court, so Lauren calls for champagne so they can toast. "You are the best prosecutor." Michael thinks it's funny that she should say that, since he's been pondering the idea of quitting while he's ahead. They move to a table as he recaps how lucky he's been over the years. He figures he should leave on a high note and start researching that novel he always wanted to write. Lauren can't gauge whether or not he's being serious and questions if he just needs a break. He mentions a feeling of contentment that usually precedes retiring from your job when Christine walks in and overhears. They invite her to join them and bring her up to speed. She thinks if Michael is actually thinking about leaving the law or even the DA's office, it would truly be the end of an era. Michael recalls giving Christine her first legal job, and they both flash back to the time when he welcomed her to Whitman, Walker, and Wilson. Chris muses, "You have certainly come a long way since then." Michael recalls that she also met the megalomaniac side of him. As he fought back, dragged him to court, and won. Instead of learning his lesson, he was consumed with revenge. He remembers diabolically building a trap for her, and they recall when he finally went to her for help to get reinstated to the Wisconsin bar and declaring he changed. Michael has given thanks every day since that. Chris believed he was sincere. They even worked together since. Chris recaps that they became real friends and colleagues. Lauren asks what Chris thinks about the idea of Michael retiring. Christine feels only Michael can decide when he's ready to retire. Lauren recalls Michael sketching only last week. "It was so good. You could be an artist, no joke." They decide he could excel at anything he put his mind to. Chris knew when it was time to leave the DA office and has no regrets. Lauren muses about work/life balance. Michael thrives on the adrenaline he gets from arguing in front of a jury. Just then, Victor happens along. Christine leaves Michael and Lauren to explain. Victor sits with Michael and Lauren, who explain that he's thinking of retirement. Victor chuckles. He'd be bored out of his skull. He suggests he follow his example by stepping back, but keeping one foot in the workforce. Michael and Lauren are surprised when Victor offers him a job at Newman Media. Michael worries he'd be a fixer. He admits they were a good match back in the day, but for every time they were in sync, there were also far less pleasant times. T-Hay flashed to Victor shouting about Michael costing him millions of dollars and firing him. Victor wonders how he'll channel his energy if he retires. Lauren seconds that. Victor opines that he'll never be bored working for him. Michael is flattered by Victor's offer, but says the conversation is premature. Victor forges ahead nonetheless, saying Michael could set his own hours and would be very well compensated. He reminds Michael they've learned to trust each other and flashes to them debating as Victor doled out orders, refusing to let his attorney take the rap for him. Victor exits and Michael chuckles. The offer complicates things, and he needs to get a handle on what life would be like if he's no longer putting Genoa City's criminals behind bars. Lauren, it turns out, has called in reinforcements. Gloria, Kevin, and Chloe arrive at Society. Lauren feels Michael needed his family's input. Michael downs his champagne in one gulp. They settle in, and Lauren points out that she asked Phyllis as well, but she's busy at work. Gloria thinks it's wonderful that they've come together on short notice as a family. Talk turns to them not being a normal family, and they flash to Gloria, hiding her son's identity from John Abbott after marrying him. The memories fast forward to Glow jumping out of a huge present at Christmas, and they all share a laugh. Michael sighs that he has no place to throw stones given the mistakes he's made. He failed Kevin as an older brother in the past. Kevin assures he's more than made up for that as they remember Michael apologizing for leaving him behind. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Monday, May 26 tease that Audra Charles and Kyle Abbott flirt with disaster. Fans know that Audra has been hired to break up Kyle and his girlfriend Claire Newman, and to this end, during the Friday, May 23 episode, she asked him out for drinks. His mom, Diane Abbott, thinks this is a bad idea, but Kyle agrees to meet. He wants to know what the Slinky Minx is up to. Claire Newman told Kyle that Audra had a meeting with Victor Newman, which is a major red flag. Does Kyle stand a chance against the Maneater? The plan is to take Kyle down, but he thinks he can take her down. Let the games begin. The two predators meet up at the GCAC Jazz Lounge to talk business. Audra makes a business proposal, and the ball is in Kyle's court. This ought to be interesting. Meanwhile, Diane waits for her sisters-in-law, Tracy Abbott and Ashley Abbott. She needs to know how they feel about the Abbott family mansion redo she did. Her husband Jack Abbott loved it, but his brother Billy Abbott did not. Billy thinks that Diane erased the memory of patriarch John Abbott and gave a curt assessment of his opinion of the changes. During the week of May 26 to 30, Tracy and Ashley are in GC, and Diane is nervous as to their reaction to the changes to their childhood home. Spicy the Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Tracy is agog at the changes. Yes, but does she like them? She is arguably the nicest of the Abbott kids and the matriarch of the family. Her opinion counts, but Diane thinks she will be nicer than Ashley about the switcheroo. What happens next in Genoa City? Now it's your turn, my and our fans. What do you think of the Abbott Mansion redo? Is it much ado about nothing, or is spoiled Billy right to be offended at the change in wallpaper? Be sure to catch up on everything happening with Y and R right now. The Young and the Restless spoilers document that Phyllis Summers believes she has an in but likely doesn't. Amanda Sinclair's unexpected return to Genoa City, Wisconsin, provides Phyllis with perceived access to power. Aristotle Dumas has become a cause caliber this year, with the new character's eventual write-in imminent. Merely an increasingly referenced topic in recent months, Aristotle's pending impact increased when Amanda revealed that she was sent to GC to calm the fears of the Winters family. Phyllis has been flailing since Martin Laurent held her and Sharon Newman captive. Stafford's hoped for role with Abbott Communications faltered after her son, Daniel Romalotti, bailed on joining the new company. That led to Phyllis attempting to sell what she knows to Aristotle and Victor Newman. It was unusual to see the switch. Phyllis and Sharon's setup to bond was like nothing that's been seen during the decades. Both great actors have been part of this deep cast. Martin created a bizarre yet compelling experiment. Phyllis and Sharon told him he wasn't successful because they didn't want him to believe he was right, yet he was. One of the more inspired and complicated tales unfolded as Tracy Abbott's latest ill-advised love match took an interest in Sharon because he hypnotized her while working for the GC Police Department. Having Martin pose as his deceased identical twin brother, Alan, was a long way to go. But the payoff worked and continues to play on. Morgan's spot as a recurring cast member keeps the 2022 Daytime Emmy Award winner in the show. Ideally, she would be a regular cast member as her second character, Amanda, has plenty of plot possibilities. Aristotle's attorney appears to have delivered the message he wanted and will soon leave town. That could mean weeks, with a summer stay probably not in the daytime cards. If the above plays out, Phyllis won't have the one faithful ally she's counting on to help her regain career mojo. Stafford's character has again imploded, which is why Billy Abbott needed to cut her loose. It's not possible to determine how long it takes or what form of phoenix she'll resemble when this section header happens, but Phyllis will recover and rebound. Considering her other friend's career change, Michael Baldwin may serve as a sounding board and facilitator. He recently told Victor he was finished as his consigliere, and Michael and Phyllis will likely commiserate about the whiplash from that outcome. Phyllis has a way of making the reality she wants happen. So viewers expect mayhem and upheaval swirling in the spring winds before the heat of a soapy summer arrives. By then, Stafford's character will be in a different spot, and whether it's balanced, it will be worth the watch. A new and compelling storyline is gaining momentum on The Young and the Restless as speculation surrounding the enigmatic Aristotle Dumas intensifies. Since his arrival, fans have been questioning his true identity, and now a powerful theory has emerged. Aristotle Dumas may actually be Victor Newman's long-lost son. Rumors suggest that Dumas may not be driven solely by power, but by something far more personal. If he shares a biological link with one of Genoa City's most powerful figures, Victor Newman, the implications would be staggering. Longtime viewers will recall that Victor has a history of secret affairs and hidden offspring, with Adam Newman being a prime example of a child born in secrecy and raised away from the Newman legacy. Building on that pattern, the theory proposes that Aristotle Dumas was the product of one such hidden relationship. Raised apart from the Newman family and unaware of his lineage, Dumas may now be returning with a singular purpose: to claim what he believes is rightfully his. This potential revelation could shake Newman Enterprises to its core. While characters like Lily, Devon, and Nate believe Dumas is targeting Chancellor Winters, all evidence points toward a more ambitious goal: Newman Enterprises itself. With Victor distracted by his rivalry with the Abbotts, Dumas is poised to strike, and May 30th, Nicky Newman's birthday, might be the moment he reveals his intentions. If Aristotle truly is Victor's son, he could legally challenge the Newman legacy, including Victor's will, and potentially orchestrate a hostile takeover of Newman Enterprises. Such a move wouldn't just be a corporate coup, it would be a deeply personal vendetta rooted in years of abandonment and emotional turmoil. Interestingly, actor Billy Flynn, best known for his role on Days of Our Lives, is rumored to be cast as Aristotle Dumas, adding fuel to the already intense speculation. The character's motivations may stem from a deathbed confession by his mother, years of silent observation from afar, or simply a deep need to assert his identity and claim his place within the Newman dynasty. Whether or not this theory is confirmed, the introduction of Aristotle Dumas promises to bring significant disruption to Genoa City. If he truly is a Newman by blood, the fallout could be dramatic, reshaping alliances, legacies, and the future of one of the show's most powerful families. In a carefully staged psychological battle, Audra Charles continues her manipulative crusade, pulling Kyle Abbott deeper into her web of deception. Despite constant warnings from Claire and Diane, Kyle remains drawn to Audra's calculated mix of allure and danger. What begins as a casual invitation for drinks quickly morphs into a sophisticated trap, where Audra seizes on Kyle's vulnerabilities and uses them to tighten her control. During a tense meeting at GCAC, Audra strategically exploits Kyle's confusion and subtly poisons a glass of wine intended for Diane, setting the stage for a devastating twist. Unaware of her actions, Kyle delivers the drink to his mother, who later collapses in front of her family. The poisoning sends shockwaves through the Abbott household, thrusting everyone into chaos and suspicion. As Diane fights for her life, the Abbott mansion becomes a battleground. Jack, Tracy, Ashley, and Billy each react differently, some seeking truth, others power. Jack remains fiercely protective of Diane, while Billy leverages the crisis for personal advantage. Ashley begins her own investigation, quietly collecting evidence that could point to the mastermind behind the attack. Meanwhile, Claire, driven by both love and a quest for justice, begins to unravel the mystery. Her path leads her to Holden, a figure from her past with deep knowledge of Genoa City's shadows. Initially cautious of him, Claire decides to work with Holden after he uncovers financial connections between Audra and a powerful, mysterious corporate entity. Their alliance becomes both strategic and dangerous as Audra senses the tightening net. Holden's findings point to a broader conspiracy, one where Audra is not just targeting Kyle and Diane, but seeking influence over the entire Abbott legacy. As Holden and Claire dig deeper, Kyle remains caught between guilt, temptation, and the illusion of safety Audra creates around him. His psychological decline is compounded by isolation and emotional manipulation, blurring his sense of reality. The climax escalates when Audra catches wind of Holden's investigation. She confronts him, shifting the narrative and positioning Claire as a scapegoat. What was once evidence to expose her becomes a liability, and Claire finds herself on the run, fighting to clear her name and save Holden. With Diane's condition worsening and the Abbott family splintering, Kyle finally sees the extent of Audra's manipulation, but his realization may have come too late. Genoa City becomes a storm of betrayal, power plays, and moral reckoning. Each character must now choose whether to fight for truth or be consumed by the conspiracies closing in around them. In the latest developments on The Young and the Restless, Kyle Abbott finds himself spiraling out of control as his ambition blinds him to the damage he's causing in both his professional and personal life. His pursuit of influence in the cosmetics industry has exposed not his strength, but his flaws, immaturity, insecurity, and a dangerous overconfidence. After stepping out from the shadow of the Abbott family, Kyle sets his sights on becoming a force in the market. However, his involvement with Audra Charles proves to be a critical miscalculation. Rather than forming a strategic alliance, Kyle unwittingly becomes a pawn in Audra's calculated moves. Audra, known for her keen perception, quickly identifies Kyle's weaknesses and manipulates him accordingly. Claire, once Kyle's emotional anchor, begins to lose faith in him. Her warnings about Audra and concerns over Kyle's growing arrogance fall on deaf ears. The emotional disconnect deepens as Kyle becomes increasingly entangled with Audra. Claire, aware of Kyle's internal struggles and transformation, watches helplessly as he distances himself from the very values that once grounded him. The turning point arrives when Claire discovers Kyle arranging a casual meeting with Audra. Though seemingly trivial, the betrayal extinguishes her last flicker of hope. The emotional gap widens until Claire quietly exits the relationship, leaving Kyle alone in the consequences of his actions. Amid a brewing advertising war between Audra's new company and Jabot, Kyle sees an opportunity to prove himself. Though hesitant, he is intrigued by the potential to rise above the company's internal challenges. Together with Claire, he begins to strategize a counter-campaign, aiming to modernize Jabot's image and shift public perception. However, the effort strains their already fragile relationship. Kyle resents Claire's cautious approach, while she worries that his growing obsession with success is compromising his judgment. Their disagreements escalate into silence and tension, even as Kyle loses sleep, and his emotional stability starts to crack under pressure. Audra, ever patient, continues to exert quiet influence, knowing that Kyle's need for validation will eventually lead him to self-destruction. She refrains from overt manipulation, instead letting Kyle's pride drive a wedge between him and Claire. Over time, Kyle transforms into someone unrecognizable, cold, arrogant, and dismissive of the woman who stood by him. The climax arrives with the official launch of the advertising war. Audra's aggressive tactics paint Jabot as outdated and unimaginative. Kyle and Claire face mounting pressure from shareholders and the media, and their fractured relationship ultimately crumbles. While Jabot may have survived the public challenge, the emotional cost for Kyle is devastating. In the end, Claire walks away, choosing peace over a partner consumed by ambition. Kyle, confronted by the reality of his actions, is left with regret and an irreplaceable void. Though Audra doesn't claim an outright business victory, she achieves her goal, watching Kyle unravel without lifting a finger. This storyline illustrates the fine line between ambition and destruction in the young and the restless. Kyle's fall is a sobering reminder that chasing power without grounding can lead to the loss of what truly matters: love, trust, and self-respect. As the dust settles, Kyle stands at a crossroads, not just in business, but in reclaiming the integrity he sacrificed along the way. In a shocking turn of events, The Young and the Restless unveils a new force set to disrupt the long-standing hierarchy in Genoa City. At the center of this turbulence is the enigmatic figure known as Dumas, a name that has never been seen on screen but is now synonymous with chaos, strategy, and transformation. Initially dismissed as a rumor, Dumas quickly became the subject of intense speculation. Unconfirmed reports hinted that Dumas might be Cain Ashby, who vanished from the city's power map after personal turmoil. Others speculated it could be Billy Flynn, a lesser-known businessman linked to dubious dealings in other cities. Regardless of the identity, one thing is clear: Dumas is a calculated disruptor, making silent waves across every major family and business entity. Amanda Sinclair stumbles upon a confidential conversation at the Chancellor office, Tucker McCall's anxious voice revealing a past debt involving a child he abandoned. The revelation strikes Amanda deeply, leading her to suspect Dumas is Tucker's long-lost child. This potential connection threatens to unravel decades of secrecy and stability. As theories about Dumas' identity swirl, some insiders from the Abbott family suggest Dumas may be a woman with an approach eerily similar to Jill's, decisive and calculating. Digital breadcrumbs, distinctive signatures, email patterns, and financial market maneuvers keep Kyle and Victoria on edge. Even Victor Newman suspects Tucker but finds contradictions in financial records that suggest a far more complex mastermind. The attacks on Victor's empire intensify. Dumas executes covert financial assaults on Newman Enterprises while exploiting internal weaknesses at Abbott. In response, Jack Abbott calls an emergency meeting to prepare for fallout. A cryptic anonymous letter reaches the Abbott mansion, claiming Dumas is the forgotten heir of a Genoa City legend, now back to reclaim a rightful legacy. The mystery deepens at a charity auction hosted by Abby. A masked Dumas appears, captivating the crowd with a powerful yet brief statement: "I have returned to demand justice. The truth will soon be revealed." Jill is visibly shaken, recognizing echoes of her own younger self in this formidable figure. The city begins buzzing with a feverish hunt for the truth. Journalists, bloggers, and paparazzi follow every trace of Dumas, but all they encounter are deflections and strategic misleads. Dumas is unbound by any established rule, rewriting the playbook while powerful families struggle to adapt. Eventually, Tucker publicly confesses he fathered a child he never acknowledged. On live television, Dumas removes the mask, revealing a face that is both unfamiliar and hauntingly reminiscent. Looking straight at Tucker and then Victor, Dumas delivers a chilling declaration: "I am here to reclaim my honor. This is the age of truth." From that moment, everything changes. The power structures long shielded by legacy crumble under the weight of long-buried secrets. A new Genoa City is born, one where truth takes precedence and power must be earned, not inherited. The shockwaves continue as Dumas shifts focus to Newman Enterprises. Rumors swirl about an impending coup, coinciding with Nikki Newman's birthday gala. On the night of the celebration, the event is hijacked. Music cuts out, screens go black, and a message appears: "It is time for Genoa City to face the truth." Simultaneously, Newman's server infrastructure suffers a cyber attack, bringing operations to a standstill. In the aftermath, Lily, Nate, and Devin uncover that Dumas had been strategically acquiring shares across Newman's subsidiaries. By exploiting internal divisions and shareholder complacency, Dumas secured significant influence without detection. Victor, visibly angered but composed, realizes he's facing a new type of adversary, one without vengeance, only a clear mission to dismantle the old order. Dumas issues an open letter to the media, stating, "Newman Enterprises has lived too long in the shadow of a family. This is not about revenge, it's about transformation." The letter solidifies Dumas as not just a disruptor, but the face of a generational shift. With the old guard destabilized, Genoa City is thrust into a new chapter where transparency, courage, and strategic insight define leadership. Dumas may be an individual, but the impact is systemic. The message is clear: in this new era, no legacy is safe from scrutiny, and no power is beyond challenge.